Next week at Fairmont Crest, everything begins to spiral out of control. Long-buried secrets are rising to the surface, and each character must confront a truth they've been avoiding for far too long. Love, trust, and betrayal weave together into a tangled web where a single wrong decision could destroy everything. In today's video, we'll dive deep into the explosive world of Beyond the Gates for the week of October 13th to 17th, a week where promises are broken, relationships begin to crumble, and even the strongest hearts are pushed to their limits. When Smitty suddenly drops to one knee and proposes to Martin in front of their two children, what seems like a tender moment is, in reality, a desperate plea from a heart terrified of loss. Meanwhile, Joey and Vanessa are locked in a bitter emotional battle where love has turned into the most dangerous weapon of all. Haley, after catching her husband in an act of betrayal, lets her rage consume her, pushing her toward a dark and uncertain path, while Danny stands on the fragile edge between holding on and letting go, torn between hope and despair. Every moment at Fairmont Crest feels like a spark waiting to ignite, and when emotions are pushed too far, no one can predict what will burn first, the heart or the mind. Join me as we uncover the tension, the shocking twists, and the life-changing decisions that will redefine everything in Beyond the Gates this week. That week at Fairmont Crest, the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Every relationship, every emotion, every word carried its own weight, signaling the tremors to come. Smitty, who had once been shattered by heartbreak, chose the moment before their two children to kneel and propose to Martin once again, as if trying to prove that love could rise again from its ashes. Yet hidden within that seemingly romantic gesture was a quiet desperation. Martin looked at Smitty, his heart torn between guilt and the longing to be forgiven. In the eyes of their children, there was both innocent joy and unspoken worry, for they had seen this collapse before and no longer knew whether this was real or merely another performance to disguise the cracks within their family. Martin smiled, but inside his mind echoed the weight of all the words left unsaid, the lies and betrayals that could destroy everything he was trying to rebuild. He accepted the proposal, not because he was certain of love, but because he didn't have the strength to shatter the fragile hope reflected in the eyes of those who still believed in him. Smitty believed she had won, believing that love and loyalty could bury the past, yet deep down, she feared that Martin was only acting, that he would leave her again once the lights dimmed and truth returned. Both were clinging to illusions, lying to themselves just to survive in a world where trust had long since died. Elsewhere at Fairmont Crest, Joey and Vanessa stood at the edge of a war neither wanted but neither could escape. Joey, tormented by his past, now faced Vanessa with both love and fury in his heart. He loved her so much it hurt, yet that very love made him possessive, controlling, desperate to own her completely. When he told her she had to give something up, his cold voice sounded like a sentence being passed. Vanessa looked at him, trying to remain calm, though her heart was cracking. She couldn't understand why the man who once promised to protect her now made her feel afraid. She had endured too much suspicion, mockery, anger, and now, as he forced her to choose, she felt trapped between love and self-respect. Her reply, laced with bitter sarcasm, wasn't meant to win but to hide her pain. Every word she spoke was like a small knife stabbing into the space between them, where love used to live but now only hurt remained. Joey saw in her eyes no longer submission but defiance. He knew he had gone too far, yet pride held him hostage. He told himself he was protecting her from her own mistakes, while in truth, he was trying to control the only thing he feared losing, Vanessa. Like any man consumed by obsession, he failed to see that it was his obsession itself killing what little love was left. Meanwhile, Haley stood by the window, her eyes swollen from anger. Her world had collapsed in seconds when she caught her husband kissing his ex. The moment cut through her soul like a blade. Everything she had trusted and fought for turned to dust. She didn't just feel betrayed, she felt humiliated. She had told herself she was strong enough to survive anything, but this was different. This time, her heart felt hollow and cold enough to make her tremble. She remembered every time she'd forgiven him, every time she'd convinced herself he would change, and realized that her faith had been nothing but a cruel joke. In her fury, Haley began imagining revenge. She no longer wanted to cry, she wanted him to suffer as she was suffering. Every breath she took fed the flames of her rage. She wondered if Bill really thought she'd stay silent, still playing the dutiful wife standing behind him. She swore he would pay, not just with loss, but with the complete collapse of his pride in life. In the darkness of her bedroom, Haley stood motionless, clutching their faded wedding photo before tearing it to pieces and letting it fall to the floor, a symbol of a love long dead. At the same time, Dani was living through a day she knew would change her life. She had told Naomi that this was the day she'd make a decision about her relationship, yet even as she said it, Dani wasn't sure what she was hoping for. She loved Andre, but that love had been worn thin by mistakes, distance, and unspoken doubt. When she received his message, her heart sank. Now standing before him, she wanted to hear the answer but feared what it might be. Andre's eyes were filled with conflict. Both of them knew that some things could never be repaired. Dani thought of the nights she had stayed awake, trying to find reasons to keep going, and the mornings she'd told herself that one more chance would make everything right. But as she looked at Andre now, she knew that chance was gone. She could see in his eyes the exhaustion of someone who had fought too long and was ready to let go. She didn't cry or beg, she simply stood still, letting the pain rise inside her like a slow-burning fire. Perhaps she had lost him long ago, and only now had the courage to face it. Fairmont Crest was now cloaked in a haze of deceit and despair. Every person there was confronting the darkest corners of their own soul. Smitty clung to Martin like a drowning woman grasping a floating branch, while Martin wasn't sure whether he loved her or was simply fleeing loneliness. Joey tried to control Vanessa, but what he truly feared losing was himself, the man who once loved but now only knew how to dominate. Haley let her anger guide her, not realizing that revenge would only make her mirror the man who betrayed her. And Dani stood torn between holding on and letting go, not knowing which path was real. As night fell over Fairmont Crest, the lights illuminated faces hiding too many secrets. Peace was only a thin mask covering storms within. Decisions would be made, unspoken words would turn into actions, and hearts that once seemed numb would break again. In this world, love was no longer a refuge, it was a battlefield where everyone fought not just each other but themselves. And in the end, none of them could tell whether they were saving their lives or destroying them completely. As the week came to a close at Fairmont Crest, no one remained as calm as before. Everything seemed to converge toward a single point where emotions, guilt, and bad decisions collided, creating chaos beyond control. After the proposal, Smitty thought she had found peace again, but deep down, a strange unease crept in. She could feel that Martin's eyes didn't hold joy but resignation. She wondered whether he accepted her proposal out of love or pity, for the sake of the two children watching them with fragile hope. That night, while everyone slept, Smitty sat silently by the window, her hand clutching the ring Martin once wore. She knew this love still existed, but not in the same way. It was like a burned-down house, its frame still standing, but hollow, smelling of smoke. Martin, meanwhile, couldn't sleep either. He stepped quietly into the hallway, watching Smitty alone in the dim light, realizing that he was the reason she clung to false hope. He loved her, but he also feared her devotion, her dependence, and the way she sought safety in him. Inside him were still secrets untold, truths that could destroy the fragile world they were pretending to rebuild. Elsewhere in the upscale community, Vanessa sat alone in the dark, staring into the mirror reflecting her pale, detached face. Joey had left after a brutal argument that left them both wounded. He told her she had to give something up, but never said exactly what, her past, or herself. Vanessa remembered when they had first fallen in love, when everything seemed unbreakable. Now, every glance, every word between them dripped with venom. Joey's love had twisted into possession, and she no longer knew if she was cherished or imprisoned. She wanted to leave, yet fear and compassion bound her to him. She knew Joey wasn't cruel by nature, he was a man broken by his own insecurities, but love couldn't survive in fear. As Vanessa stood and faced the mirror one last time, she saw a stranger looking back. She knew that once she walked away, there would be no return. But at Fairmont Crest, where everyone claimed to fight for love, sometimes leaving was the only way to survive. Joey, on the other hand, walked along the stone path, his mind spinning. Every step echoed with memories, apologies, tears, promises he couldn't keep. He had sworn never to lose the one he loved, yet now he was the one pushing her away. He didn't know how to love without control, how to hold without suffocating. In his mind, Vanessa's cold retreat replayed again and again like an unhealed wound. He wanted to call her, to beg for another chance, but something stopped him. He knew words couldn't mend what had already shattered. The night wind swept past him, carrying the scent of grass and loneliness. Perhaps Joey was no longer fighting for love, but for the pride he couldn't let go of, the version of himself that refused to lose. Haley's rage, meanwhile, still burned unchecked. Since discovering her husband's affair, she had become a different person. Every day was haunted by images of him and that other woman. The tears were gone, only the icy stillness of fury remained. She began plotting, not for violence but destruction. She started digging into her husband's business, his secrets, his betrayals. Haley was no longer the victim, she became the orchestrator. But in her thirst for control, she slowly lost herself. Some nights she looked in the mirror and saw someone she didn't recognize. Gone was the woman who once believed in love, replaced by a cold, calculating soul who lived only to see another person's ruin. She thought she was reclaiming justice, but in truth, she was perpetuating the same pain that had been inflicted upon her. And then there was Danny, standing at the crossroads with a heavy heart. Her meeting with Andre taught her that not every love is worth saving. In his eyes, she saw weariness, quiet surrender, the acceptance that what was once beautiful had faded beyond repair. Danny left in silence, neither angry nor resentful, only hollow. She had thought that breaking up would destroy her, but she realized the true pain came from recognizing that it had ended long ago, even while she kept pretending it hadn't. As she stepped out into the night, the cool breeze brushed through her hair, carrying both freedom and sorrow. She knew she had lost a piece of her past, but she also knew she had finally been given a chance to start over. Fairmont Crest now resembled a painting, elegant on the surface, but cracked underneath. Everyone within it carried wounds no one could see. Smitty clung to a love that no longer existed, Martin pretended to be the perfect husband while his heart wandered elsewhere, Joey spiraled into obsession, Vanessa fought to preserve her sense of self, Haley drowned in vengeance, and Danny buried a love that had already died. Each of them believed they were doing the right thing, yet none realized they were all contributing to the decay of Fairmont Crest, a place now filled with lost souls. As the final night of the week settled in, a cold wind swept across the lake, echoing with emptiness. Lights glimmered in the houses, but their warmth was gone. Somewhere, someone sat in silence by a window, someone else wept quietly, another began plotting an uncertain future. Fairmont Crest was more than an affluent neighborhood, it was a gilded cage where people were trapped by their own emotions, where love and hate intertwined, and every choice came with a devastating price. And when the sun rose on the next week, everything would look normal again, the smiles, the greetings, the cups of coffee, but beneath it all, everyone knew that something had changed forever. No one was the same, and Fairmont Crest, the place of perfect appearances, had finally become a battlefield for broken hearts.